Okay, be nice, everybody.
Yeah, let's start taking me.
My Council Warwick's on, is she?
Yes.
I see an iPad up there.
And you like.
Yes, is the person that you guys are supposed to be nice to me now, Mr. Mayor?
Got
You're not nice enough. Anytime.
I can.
Yeah, what? What does it cost?
Call order at 6 o'clock. Motion to adopt.
So, Mr. Mayor, there is a change on the agenda.
Okay,
So under closed session, 1301, we will remove.
okay,
And we will add a 1303, which is a land matter.
okay.
There's already a 1303 on there.
Sorry, 1304. So we'll have a 1302, a 1303, and a 1304.
Perfect. Motion to adopt the amended agenda. Vote, all in favor?
Are you watching for, or do you know?
All I see is Andy's iPad.
She doesn't have her camera on.
So Councilor Warwick, are we assuming you're voting in favor unless we hear
Here
from you?
differently.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I just did send you a message. I think because of where I'm streaming from, if I have video on, you're probably gonna be hit and miss. So that's why I'm trying to just do audio if that works. And do you want me to text you? Or
Just if you're opposed.
I'm in favor?
Yeah, I got that.
Okay,
Yeah, so if you're opposed, just let me know, we'll move on.
okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Delegations. At RCMP.
Mr. Mayor,
That's you, Ron.
thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm here today to speak to the second quarter provincial policing report. My apologies for not being able to come here earlier to speak to that. But I'm happy to answer any questions you might have with respect to that. The crime statistics. I think one notable increase that I see in the crime statistics is criminal code traffic offenses. Those are mostly related to impaired driving interdiction. Between July and September, there's an increase from last year to this year. So we have had an increase in impaired driving incidents. If you have any questions specific to the statistics, though,
So that impairment would be alcohol and drugs
that's correct.
and or drugs?
Yes.
Do you see more drugs or is it about 50-50 or?
I would say off the top of my head, probably more just alcohol.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So Rob, would that be, is that more enforcement or same amount of enforcement or is that yes or?
We have had an increase in staffing during part of that period,
Okay.
so there are more officers on the road.
Cool.
So that could be part of it.
Yep.
Also, to update, as I'm sure you all are aware, we responded to a residential fire last month. I can just report that our investigation on that is ongoing. There is no outstanding risk to the public at this time in relation to that. And we're still working with the Hanna Fire Department and the medical examiner in that investigation. We did receive a report recently of some issues with coyotes in town. One individual said that they had an encounter with their dog and some coyotes within the town city limits. So they're asking about advice on that. I spoke with that individual and just told them what their options are with respect to dealing with coyotes. And the conservation officers service does not involve themselves with coyotes within city limits. So if you hear any reports or issues with coyotes, please bring those to our attention. We would certainly intervene if there was a risk to public safety. And we'd respond at the time and deal with the coyotes as necessary.
So council, some of your snowman is not a threat.
Was in danger for a while. So just to go back to that, Rob, because we had the same conversation. I don't know if we talked to the same resident, but at the end of the day, when I did call Fish and Wildlife, they gave me the same story, that they don't do that enforcement in town. They advised us to do some education, so we put out some social media, put some news out just in terms of what to look for, how to try and coyote-proof your yard, etc. But I know that wasn't much solace to the individual who's worried about, running into the coyote again. So, and it's illegal to discharge a firearm in town. So, our hands get tied in that regard. So, just if something happens, and that's the tough part, if something happens immediately, even if they called you, by the time you respond, then probably the animal's no longer around. So,
my advice for folks when they ask me about this situation is if their dogs are on leash, like if they're walking them, then that's preventing half of the problem, because they're not dealing with their dog loose, engaging with the coyotes. And then if they feel comfortable, they may want to use like something like that if they had a coyote actually come into their space while they have their dog under control. So, and then call us.
Can bear spray be used or?
It could be, but I wouldn't recommend it just because of it's more of a mist.
Okay.
And it's a big cone. So blowback is an issue. So dog spray that you can buy commercially is more of a stream. Any other questions on that?
Mr. Mayor, if I can just ask a question, please. Sergeant Wellsman, the other night, it was about 10:30 at night, and I heard some coyote sound in town. It alerted my dog who was in the house, and I went out my yard on my back deck, and in the hospital grounds on the east side of the medical clinic, there was at least 6 of them there. So I think it is getting to be a growing problem. I was highly concerned myself with the numbers of coyotes, and I guess this was dark too, and later at night. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm concerned, with the packing of them, because it doesn't matter what you do for safety. I heard somebody say to me, "Oh, they jump fences and stuff," and yes, indeed they can. I have seen that. I'm a farm girl. I've seen what they can do. And so even if you have your dog safely in your own yard and contained, if they're coming in numbers and they're hungry, they will jump the fence. So I don't know if I think at some point in time, I know this is probably not in your portfolio, but if we can work to maybe reduce those numbers, or I don't know. Anyhow, it is a concern. Also, another question when we're talking about the traffic, the drinking and driving violations. I don't know if I can ask this question or not, but I'm just curious, when you say that more infractions have happened this last little while, has that been more local residents, or has that been outside our kind of local jurisdiction, like highway and people passing through the community?
I would say it's a mix. I can't give you a specific number, but it would be a mix of both residents and individuals outside of the town of Hanna who are in our policing area, like Youngstown and special areas, but also people traveling through.
Okay, thank you.
Just to touch on the coyote issue again, if it becomes an increasing concern, then I'll certainly reach out to the town to discuss this further. If there's something that we need to need to do. I'll update on a few other issues. Our staffing levels, we're currently fully staffed. Recently, a corporal position was added to our detachment staffing complement. That position is currently vacant, but will be posted soon for having it staffed, which would increase our numbers at the detachment. Additionally, we've had an increase in the number of prisoners at the Hanna detachment. This is partially due to taking over the housing of prisoners from Wayne detachment as well. So we are going to be advertising interest in guard positions. These are part-time positions. So we will be posting for that. Also, Operation Cold Start is on. This is a province-wide initiative to encourage Albertans to avoid, if possible, letting their vehicles idle unattended because of the risk of theft. So you may see some notices out about that and in the media. That's all I have for now.
This week will be a prime example.
Yes.
Is that a temporary thing that you'll be, taking over Wayne's prisoners as well, or?
No, that will stay the same for the foreseeable future. So in our prisoner process, we only house prisoners generally for up to 24 hours. And then they're either released and returned back to their home community where they came from, which would mean transport back to the Oyen area. Or if they're remanded by the Justice of the Peace, then they end up going to a remand center out of town. Also, you'll see coming up in the paper, starting to do monthly updates with the local media just on what the detachment is up to. So that should be coming out this week. We've laid a number of criminal charges in the past month, some in relation to fraud, assault, mischief, and theft, and also identity fraud. So that will be posted in the paper along with some of the other things that I talked about in this report. That's it.
Questions?
I understand that you guys have been doing some work with the schools and the students and such. Is there, any other area that you'll be focusing on as far as, I think bullying was one, and maybe drugs and that sort of thing? As far as maybe, assault, addressing assault issues or self-defense or?
Are you referring specifically to youth in the school or just to other community populations?
Well, both.
Yeah.
I think youth is always a good place to start so that they are aware of how to deal with certain things and that sort of thing. And yeah, I think there's always an opportunity to address anybody that is, breaking the law, like robbing somebody or stealing or assault or whatever. The safer our environment or our community can be, the better.
Definitely. We're touching on a number of different issues in the schools. So bullying, drugs, general safety, and then also in other areas of the community, we've also discussed fraud prevention, particularly amongst seniors, which is a very common issue that comes up. So those are some of the different things that we're working on in the community proactively.
And I'm hoping not to sound too, I don't know, racist or whatever. I know during the summer, there was concern about, some people that were sleeping in the, Hector King Hunter Park across from the manors. And I had heard, a number of residents that were concerned about that. Is that going to be, sort of an ongoing into the spring, just checking around to ensure? Do we have a homeless I know we have a little bit of a homeless issue. Are there any that are of more concern than others?
I think we have a small group of probably what you'd call couch surfers, who are sort of transient between residences. And true homelessness, especially this time of year, it isn't that common. But we did see in the summer some individuals who were sleeping in abandoned buildings and that sort of thing. We had to work with some property owners who were not within the town, or maybe living elsewhere but owned a structure, and work with them to secure the building, or if need be, work with them on charges, like if a person's trespassing repeatedly to the building.
Mhm.
So I think as the weather warms up again, we'll probably see some individuals return to that, outdoor living situation, but I wouldn't say it's increased since, in the time that I've been here. But it definitely does exist. And one of the things that we try to do is encourage those individuals to work towards some solutions like drug abuse treatment, because there's a clear nexus between homelessness, drug use, and oftentimes mental health conditions. So where we can steer them in the right direction, there, we have had a few individuals in getting treatment just by encouraging them and helping to facilitate dealing with the centers that provide that treatment, and working with links as well.
Thank you.
Anything else for Rob?
I have a comment, just, Mr. Mayor, just popped into my mind. I don't know why it hasn't been brought to my attention, but victim services, where are we at? Is it, is there some service here? Is it working? I know they're supposed to be having a new system implemented April 1st, but victim services even talk about has been very quiet, so.
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. The permanent victim services worker is undergoing her security clearance. She's going to be covering both Oin detachments and Hanna detachment. But at the same time, there is also this program redesign that's been initiated by the province. So her hiring is under the old model because we wanted to have something go forward, and eventually the transition will occur into this new program, and then individuals who are working under the old model will have to transition to this new model. So we're currently, we do receive victim service support, but they're not in town. So that is a challenge with, appearing to support victims in court and that sort of thing, but it does exist. We can provide them with some of the resources that victim services has, but it's definitely a challenge for sure, while we're waiting for this process.
Okay, and just a comment for council. So I know Sergeant Wellsman indicated that we've got an additional corporal position added. I think this is the cynic in me, but the province is going to suggest to us that is a partially because of the funding that we are now putting into policing. So I know the discussion around the table when the province started charging municipalities under 5,000 for policing, that was the comment from a lot of places. Well, what are we going to see? Are we going to see any benefit? So I think this is, if we've seen anything, this will be a direct benefit to us. And secondly, I think, they probably beefed up some of their background and different RCMP teams with some of these funds as well that are of a benefit to Rob and his members as they do their work. So hopefully we get that position filled, and that's another body in the organization. So.
Is there a maximum number per capita, or?
It's not based solely on the population of the area. It also depends on the crime rate as well.
Could be level.
Yeah. So you may actually see smaller size population communities with more officers. Just depends on that mix of the statistics and population. So Hanna's still well under that threshold for where the municipality would be responsible for directly funding policing services. So it's still a provincial responsibility, even with this added position.
Challenges we have here is just geographically, we're so spread out.
Big area.
Yeah, the area cover is huge.
I know the detachment Milk Point, I believe is at 13 members, and Populous Milk Point's 1,200 people. They service a very, very large area as well.
Yeah.
With a high crime rate.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing else, need motion to thank Sergeant Rob Wellsman, Hanna Detachment for his presentation, of Police Statistics 2023-2024, second quarter, July to September 23, and the update activities of Hanna Detachment. Motion.
You better get Fred. He's had his
Sorry.
arm out a couple times.
All right, all in favor? Carry. Delegations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Yeah. Public presentation. Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for your time to present again. This evening, I want to talk about a couple of things. In the last meeting in November 14th, when you voted in the letter, I tried to follow through because I was confused with what the letter actually was supposed to say. So when on November 14th, Mrs. Warwick, when she first presented it, she said that administration be directed to draft a letter regarding council's non-concurrence with the Pace Solar project in the designated location adjacent to the Hanna runway. Okay, but then Mr. Neal reiterated the motion, and it came out as administration be directed to draft a letter regarding council's non-concurrence with Pace Solar project in the town of Hanna. So the one that was actually passed was in the town of Hanna. So I'm not sure which one. So on the letter to Pace in December, it was written as in their designated location adjacent to the airport runway. So I was gonna ask just for confirmation on which one.
There is only one piece project.
Yeah,
In town.
no, but the letter that was sent to, was in December 14th, said in their designated location adjacent to the airport runway. And that's actually what, Mrs. Warwick had presented. But then in your wording in the next one, which was accepted as amended at that meeting, it said solar project in the town of Hanna.
Yeah, there is only one project in the town of Hanna.
You're wanting to know if it's like the wording specifically said in the letter?
Yeah, but the letter said adjacent to the Hanna Airport runway. But
But how do you, that letter was the draft letter that was in the council package? Is that the letter you're referring to?
yeah, in the council package in December 14th, the letter says in their designated location adjacent to the Hanna Airport runway. But in the meeting, the motion was in November, the motion was accepted as amended. And the amendment was Mr. Neal's last statement, and it said the project in the town of Hanna. So to me, there's a difference between, Pace, the letter stating in the town of Hanna for Pace, or only adjacent to the runway with Pace.
There's
So-
only one project. I don't know what.
So I
you're-
can't-
That's not what she's getting at.
I can't speak for council, but the letter of non-support was for the project located adjacent to the airport, or the proposed project located against the airport. It wasn't in the entire town of Hanna.
But that's what I'm stating, is that the motion that was actually passed was the amended motion, in which when you had stated it, it said project in the town of Hanna. So it meant anywhere in the town of Hanna.
The minutes.
Yeah,
So
I don't,
regardless, I
I'm
think.
I'm bringing it up because I think it should be addressed, because it was within the meeting that the motion was amended. but Angie's, Mr. Warwick's motion was actually designated location at the runway. But it was actually, reread as in the town of Hanna. So I just wanted to clarify which way the intention was, and then you might have to check the.
Okay,
motion.
yeah, I'd have to look back at the minutes.
Okay, and then it was actually, the difference was in the video, so. And then I was just gonna reiterate that I thought, it's my understanding that during meetings, a motion has to be presented before a discussion is began. So I'm not positive, but I just wanted to, when there was, the motion to dismiss the solar off of the thing, there wasn't a motion made until after the discussion. So that may be something just to look into. I'm just gonna reiterate those things there. So,
December 14th was a special meeting.
December 12th.
No, December 12th.
Oh, December 12th, okay. Yeah. So just to clarify that, I found it kind of confusing to follow through, so I was checking back into it. And I finding it would be helpful if the motion is just reread just before you guys vote on it, and then it would be clear. That's all I'm stating in that one. So I'm gonna go on. The MGA 619 does indeed state part 1 that the permit that AUC grants prevails over any land use bylaw. In part 2, it also states the municipality must approve the application to the extent that it complies with the permit from AUC. However, in part 3, it also states that the municipality must approve the application generally within 90 days and is not subject to 692. 692 is the hearing, okay? Unless, in the opinion of the municipality, the land use bylaw amendment relates to matters not included in the AUC approval. Okay, so therefore an interpretation may be considered that once a company applies for a land use bylaw change with the approval from AUC, the municipality must approve the application not subject to a hearing unless the land use bylaw amendment relates to matters not intended in the AUC approval. And then the municipality may hold a public hearing and appropriate readings to amend the bylaw to include appropriate changes as needed to ensure the project is completed to the town standard. Therefore, it appears that under 619(3)(b), this indicates that there is an opportunity for the town to amend the bylaws as needed for each development permit that must be issued for an approved AUC project. So in my interpretation, and I've done phone calls, in my interpretation, you can amend it even if it's not on the bylaw. Okay. So number 3, the AUC. I have a handout here. I got it ready. It's just over there, but it's a handout from AUC. And this information reiterates how important it is for the town to register as someone who has standing when the application is submitted to AUC. If the town owns property within 800 meters of the proposed solar plant, the town receives standing, not just intervening, okay? The document to be handed out outlines the importance of municipalities participating in the AUC process. It is not just land use planning, it is the entire public interest picture that needs to be taken into account. And it is crucial that AUC hears concerns and ideas from Alberta's municipalities. The applications are also case by case, so everyone is different, especially this one. Okay, the AUC is required by law to consider each project's social, economic, and environmental impact.
Carol?
That,
You have 5 minutes, Carol.
the statements of matter. So I have copies of statements of matter that I want to hand out. I didn't get a chance to print them and copy them, but I have one copy and I could leave that with you. They are matters that impact the decision of the petition to present the petition to the town of Hanna Council and the community. These events, facts, and understandings have impacted the clarity of the proposed solar.
Carol, you need to wrap up, please.
I was interrupted, sorry to ask you some time back. These events, facts, and understandings have impacted the clarity of the proposed solar projects in the town of Hanna, specifically by the airport. This is by no means a completed document. We trust that these statements will work to continue dialogue with the residents of Hanna and the surrounding community. And in the last little paragraph is, I trust the town will consider the opportunity to participate in any AUC hearings to fully represent the residents and surrounding community. There's lots to learn in this period of growth will strengthen the voice between the people and its government. Okay, thank you. I'll give you the documents there and. show you.
Thank you, Carol. Everyone's had a chance to look at the meeting minutes. Councilor Bowden,
I have just one comment, it's just a typo. Shoot, where's mine? It is December 12th, page 118. I think it's supposed to be Maureen, Hanna, not Maureen, 9.04.
9.04, did you say?
Yeah, sorry, just,
Oh, I see, there's two 904s. That's another typo.
oh, I didn't see that one. It's the one, Councilor Murphy, just at the bottom.
Yes,
As far as.
yeah,
Maureen, yeah.
That's correct.
Sorry. But otherwise, they look wonderful.
okay, motion to accept the adopted, no, what do we want to call it? Amended, that's what I was looking for. The amended minutes for the December 12th meeting is presented. Councilor Bowden, all in favor? Carried. Minutes from the special council meeting, December 14th, 2023, be adopted as presented. Motion, Councilor Thorough. Okay. All in favor? Carried. Accounts payables. Any questions, concerns?
Yes.
Councilor Bowden?
Sorry. I just had a question about, 002686 Henry Kruger Regional Water Services. It shows that the November water charges were 56,000
Yeah,
for the airport?
no,
For the entire town and everything.
so we get water service at the airport from Henry Kruger.
Great.
So they just come, it's just the way it's written in the bill.
Oh,
The water at the airport is their minimum charge of $40 a
okay.
month.
Oh,
So,
okay. It just
but-
looked really weird to me. that-
yeah, the way it's
but
laid
What
out.
is the airport? Yeah.
Yeah,
Regional
our
water.
tenant doesn't use that much water.
No, that's what. That-
But yeah, that 56 is,
It's kind of
Is-
deceiving.
yeah.
That was all.
The others? Hearing none. Motion accepts accounts payable listing general accounts, checks number 42940 to 42970. And direct deposits from 002645 to 002725 for information. Councilor Olson, all in favor? Carried. Statement of revenue.
so I always say this at this time, Mr. Mayor, so it does go to say that it's to December 30th, 2023, but it's not, that's not year end. There's still bills that have to go out and there's still revenue that are expenses that have to come in that we're still getting. So it's getting closer to year end, but it's not quite there yet, so. And if anybody has any questions, I can answer them.
Do we have outstanding taxes yet?
That I don't know.
Oh, approximately.
I couldn't tell you,
Okay,
sorry.
Any questions, concerns? Hearing none, motion to accept the statement of revenue expense for December 2023. It's information. Councilor Thorough, all in favor? Carried. Budget overview. Councilor Cole, you're shaking your head no, is that, is that a good no or a bad no? See no questions or concerns, budget, council accept the budget overview for December 2023's information. Motion. Councilor Olson, all in favor? Carried. Capital budget update. Seeing no questions, council accepts the fourth quarter capital budget update dated December 2023 for information. Motion, Councilor Bowden, all in favor? Carried. Senior administrative officials reports.
Mr. Mayor, just a couple of things, under the downtown redevelopment project, we still haven't heard anything on the grant. I did talk to them before Christmas and kind of told them the importance of moving it along, but Prairie Scan is not quick,
They're not-
so I'm hoping, we get something. If I don't hear anything, I'll be in touch with them again next week and put some more pressure on, because we would like to get approval, and we would like to get out to tender as soon as we can. The other thing I just wanted to point out, if you didn't see it in my report, and Brent included in his report, so the lighting, airport lighting project is done. Working, that piece of equipment that's been missing,
Missing, damaged.
missing and damaged, showed up, and I give the contractor credit. They were here the day after it arrived here from Ohio, and they installed it. Rob Palmer worked with them to make sure that everything was working and tested and working good. So we still have MP has to do a final inspection, and then once final inspections happen, then we'll probably get confirmation that we can pay out the remaining amounts of the contract. But it has been up and working since December 15th, and I haven't heard of any issues from any of the pilots with it, so.
Well, it's right on the highway when you see it.
It actually has 3 settings.
Yeah, it does.
Let's hit on the brightest, it's really bright. They had a guy come out today and just look, because they're obligated to leave us so many extra parts. So he came out just to double check, make sure we had everything that was in contract. He was happy and he went back.
So other than that, I do have a meeting on the 16th with MPE to get some updates on primarily the potential servicing at the school, what options there would be available there, and any further updates on the work they're doing on Palliser and Pioneer Trail. So other than that, for me, that's what I have. I don't know if there's much in Kevin or Michelle's to raise. I think Kevin's done a nice job. We've had some questions about the fitness equipment and fitness center, and because we've had some new equipment put in there, and some of our members maybe don't like the new equipment that's been put in. Primarily, I think a lot of the original stuff that we're replacing was residential grade, not commercial grade. But we do have the supplier coming out on the 17th. And so Kevin has put out to the members who've talked to him, and we put posters up around the facility that if anybody wants to come that night to have a bit of a question and answer and find out how and why about the machines, they're certainly encouraged and welcome. So I think that's a good step to making sure we have good relations there. So
are they wanting the commercial versus?
no, they just had liked the residential, and I'm not in there using it, but there's some of the pieces that they didn't like the newer piece as well as the old piece.
Oh,
But when they're residential use, if there's an issue with it, then we're probably not gonna be in a good position liability wise if someone gets hurt using that equipment, so. So that's happening. Kevin has used one of our seasonal staff, and they've been painting all the interior of the swimming pool. So they'll have that all done here right away. I haven't been in and seen it, but they did, put the new flooring in Lions Hall. So, it looks good in the pictures, but I haven't been in to see it. Other than that, with Michelle's report, they did have the Skate with Santa. No accidents. Santa survived this year. Didn't have to go to the hospital. We are working with the Canadian Ramp Company on skate park design. So they're trying to arrange a meeting at the school for the students interested to be on virtually with the representatives to talk about the plans and ideas and get some feedback from them on it. And we have ordered disc golf units. So they have not arrived yet, but the plan would be to install them in Fox Lake in the spring. So we only bought 6 because that was what the budget allowed for. But if we find that there's a demand and they're used and we want to look at expansion, we can always expand to a more common number for a golf facility. So
I have a question.
yeah.
It's in regards to the regional housing strategy, in Michelle's report. And it indicates that Harvest Sky Economic Development called together, all these individuals regarding the, regional housing strategy and the next steps. And it's kind of misleading because as a board member, I don't believe any of the board members were involved. If they were, they may have been because they're associated with Lynx or associated with Youngstown or special areas. But as a board member, we were not invited to that. And, you know, I think there is some information that as a board member, you could gather from information like that. And it's just the manager is basically the one that called it. And I don't know if any other board members were invited or attended or really what the scoop is.
Yeah, the way it's worded may be off a little bit, but Mark Nakota kind of facilitated the meeting and facilitated getting the organizations together to find out where everybody was at, what everybody's intentions were, what we thought the potential needs were. It was a very preliminary meeting, but I think Mark just took it upon himself as the manager to facilitate the meeting and get the people in the room. So
yeah, it's just a little frustrating because, you know, this is probably an important, or it'd be nice to be involved in some of the discussion to find out how it's evolving and such when we are asked to make maybe decisions down the way. Where Harvest Sky then expands into other options or other areas of economic development and such, so.
yeah, it was very preliminary though, Councilor Bowden, and I guess my comment would be, at this point in time, there was general, I would call administrative or staff people in attendance. There were no elected officials or governance people in the room. So it wasn't like you were not singled out. There was no one from council there was no one from the school board there was no one from special areas there other than staff, just to kind of start and get the ball rolling. So
But just so you're aware that, you know, board members might want to go, but are not involved. And I think it's happening on, in other areas as well, within, you know, meetings that are happening that are, yeah. It just would be nice to be a bit involved and stuff too, so. That's all I have to say.
and I believe, I'm hoping we will have our outdoor rink open this weekend, so. Although it'd be my
Should be
30,
cold out.
so I don't know if anybody be using it, that's the way it goes, so. They were making this, so thought they would have it ready for this weekend, so.
That's cold now. It's freezing.
Yeah, it'll be freezing, freezing nicely now.
Yeah, probably higher than freezing.
Yeah.
Crack and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to be negative,
Yeah.
Laura, you got something for us today?
I do not have a written report. I intended to try to get one together this afternoon, but other priorities came around. I will let you know, though, that an application for the storefront improvement program that had come in early last year was paid out at the end of 2023. So that's probably one of the expenses that Kim was talking about that's still coming out on the financial reports. And I have 2 new applications on my desk for 2024 that I need to review. Well, I will certainly entertain any questions or comments.
Sorry, it's me again. Do you have anything, any updates on the electronic sign? That is not electronic, or just how things are evolving around that, or,
On the signage replacement, on the replacement part of that sign?
yeah.
No.
Okay,
We haven't moved forward with it until we hear back from the band in
Oh, yes,
regards to
okay.
the plan. Because if that's gonna be the starting point, we wanna make sure that they're on board and what we do with that, so.
Did have a comment today from a young lady that's opened a business. Wanting to know if we did more than a letter for new businesses. And I said that's basically what we do from a town standpoint. So then she asked if it would be possible, and I know when we did do a little bit running around with Business Hub, with the new businesses and stuff, took pictures and so on and so forth. And if any new business wants that, and she called it photo opportunity.
Yeah,
And I said, I have no problem doing it, so, yeah, it's just if that's something that they want, then yeah.
it's probably something, I'm looking at Lori, it's probably something that, like, we were doing them. Business Hub took over, now the Business Hub's not there, so it's maybe something we have to put on our radar again. Then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, we used to send them. When new business applications came in or business licenses, we would send them and say, are you interested in this? And then I know we had a number of them would come here at the office prior to a council meeting. And we do 2 or 3 pictures of however many were interested at the time. So certainly something we could rejuvenate. We did it here just to make it easy for the mayor in terms of not having to run to different places, but
And have them on one. And have it at one time when the mayor was already gonna be.
yeah, so we can certainly open that option back up again.
I don't know how many there would be, I have no
Yeah.
problem. I mean, it's a 5 minute,
Yes,
and it's not very big,
yeah,
so.
Yeah.
No, it's just, it was
Yeah.
just a question was brought up and I told her I would
Yeah.
ask, so. Okay,
So that's something that we want to try to find time to rejuvenate in 2024.
I would
I
say
think so.
so,
I don't think we'll get a ton, but give them the option.
just
if
give them
they're
the option
interested.
if they wanna
Yeah,
follow up or you want.
yeah.
Mr. Olson,
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing further to add to my report. I was gonna talk about the electrician, but Kim jumped in, so I wasn't really.
Didn't talk about the electrician. I didn't even know that the electrician was out there.
But I thought I'd bring it up then.
I didn't read your mind.
nothing exciting, so. All of commercial inspections are done, good.
Pretty much. We just did the little orange truck today. I think there's 2 in February, but
Anything major?
no, everything was good.
Good. Good. Okay, get a motion to accept. And get back up there. Motion to accept the senior administrative officials report 8.01, 8.03, presentation for information. Counselor Kroll. I see you move your hand, so I was gonna get to.
Well, I was just fanning myself.
Oh, okay.
Oh, man, just-
Would you like to make that motion?
Oh, sure.
Perfect. All in favor? Carried. 9.01, emergency management report.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It was brief in your package. I have nothing further to add to that. Just got some stuff coming up in January and February here right away on it. If there's any questions concerning our emergency management, I can take them.
Still looking at doing a big disaster.
Yeah, eventually. We're applying with special areas is the lead on applying for a grant. I think we're gonna apply for around 25,000, so if we get that, that would go towards the regional exercise. We did not get the grant last year, so we're hoping that this year's more favorable. We've got a couple upcoming meetings with the special areas here shortly, and
Well, doing it as a joint probably doesn't hurt, right?
well, that's the best way to do it. I think.
We have to out here.
Yeah,
We have
for
to,
sure.
yeah, we don't wanna be,
Well, everything we do together
Yeah.
anyway, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes it easy, right?
Dave? Hearing none, motion accepts the town of Hanna Director of Emergency Management 2023 fourth quarter report for information and thank the Director of Emergency Management David for his presentation.
You have to put it somewhere.
Counselor Thurl, all in favor? Gary?
You do whatever you want, it's gonna show up where it wants.
That's after that. Yeah. Alrighty, development officer report. Okay. Continue to the work. We had 51 development permits for 2023. This just shows you the overall permits for the last 5 years, so slightly down from the last 2 years, but I'd say pretty average. Higher again than what we were with COVID in 2019 and 2020. Dollar comparison, down 175,000. But still pretty good, especially if you look back to even 21 and previous 2 years before that. This breaks the permits down by column. The blotted out one on the right is signs. So just showing kind of where the workload is, what's going on. We'll get into some comparisons later on. And this is just percentage of what permits were for types, same categories, but just give you an idea, 20% of the permits coming in were for fences and so on. So this is comparing by category. So for your commercial, we had 3 commercial ones for 23, quite a bit down from the previous year, but nothing to be too alarmed, I don't think. Comes and goes, there's not a lot we do to control this, it is what it is, right? Industrial, no industrial permits. And again, it depends on the zoning of the area as to what determines when the business is looking for a permit as to what category they go in. Residential up slightly, but I'd say very average at 19. You know, a couple more than last year, but a little off the previous 2 years. Home occupation, big jump from last year, but looks like last year was really the anomaly, so to speak. I expect this one, I think we're gonna see this trend keep going. A lot of people wanna run a business, but they wanna work for themselves and they wanna run it from their house. I think the work from home thing brought to light a different lifestyle, people being able to work from home, and I think now people are taking it to the next step and going, you know what, I can run this XYZ business model I've been thinking about and do it from my house. So I think you're gonna continue to see that category grow. Fences down from the previous year, down for the 5 years. My biggest challenge with fence is still, we had talked about taking it out of the new land use bylaw, and then that was one of the amendments that was put in right near the end to keep it in. The biggest challenge right now is the ones that don't, and then acting on them, the ones that don't bother to take a permit. So that's gonna be the biggest challenge going forward, is the education component. I think we made the right decision leaving it in though. Signs. This one we'll see probably come down again because some of the signs now won't require permits. The portable signs, temporary portable signs don't require permits anymore under the new land use bylaw. So like the temporary one you'd see at Tim Hortons out on the boulevard advertising something, they don't have to have a permit. So they were pretty much on for 3 months, off for 3 months in their cycle. So that's 3 or 4 of these alone would have been just with the Curvix. They still have to follow the bylaws, still have to follow the rules, the setbacks and everything else, but just don't require the permit. And that's all I had on development. Any questions? I know it's exciting stuff.
Do you
Me?
have a question?
No, he's done such a great job. It just cleared everything.
Oh, you just wanted to make the motion? You just wanted to make the motion.
I never ask questions for Dave. It's fine.
Russ Olson would like to make a motion.
Oh, sure.
Perfect. All in favor? Great.
Now we'll get into the long one.
Go ahead.
Current membership for fire department sitting at 30, which is full. We do have a couple applications, had a call today from somebody that was interested also, so there's definitely interest. So for us, recruitment, retention hasn't been a huge issue yet. I will say we're one of the few departments though that it hasn't been. I keep hearing from everybody that's, it's all about recruitment, retention, so. I guess someday it'll probably come our way too, but for now it's been pretty good. A training group that was established in 2005. Last year we completed an NFPA 1001 firefighter 1 course that started in fall 22. That's your basic firefighting course. And we also completed a 1051 wildland course in October that we did on the road in Acadia Valley. And we've bit off a busy spring. We've got 2 pump courses, 2 hazmat courses, and 1 wildland course, all being completed by the end of May this year coming up. So we're about to get very, very busy. Some of these we can do in cold weather. So we'll be starting in February with the first courses and going from there, but gonna be a lot happening over the course of the winter / early spring. And again, that's when we can get the students the easiest because there's none of the fun summer stuff's out there yet. So we're able to get them while they're sitting cold at home. Burn tower, phase 1 and 2 are completed. Phase 3 is the installation of our exterior burn props. They are ordered and built, sitting in Ontario where they were manufactured, waiting to be shipped out in the spring. We've got a little bit of site prep that needs to be done, and then we have to pour concrete for the pad for them all to sit on. So once the ground thaws, frost is out, and everything's dry and finished settling, we can get in there, finish a little bit of prep. So we've asked them now to hold off shipping the props till June. It's kind of our new date that we're aiming for.
How many
And-
phases do you have?
Haven't decided.
When are you gonna be done?
Haven't decided. There's so much more a person could do. It's all about how much money we raise and what the demand is for the training. You know, fencing the place in itself would be really nice. That's gonna be not a cheap place to put up chain link fence all the way around, and there's lots of other things, but this is the bigger chunk of it. This is the last of the big. Anything after this will be a lot smaller. Hopefully in the $100,000 bracket, not the $500,000 bracket or more. This is one of the props that we actually have ordered, is a car prop. It'll be a 2-door car on one side and a 4-door car on the other side. fire that can be in the trunk or engine compartment, depending on how we configure it. And then this is the full quad that we've got ordered. We have a very similar to the FAR tank there that can be used for hazmat. So it's got a concave end on one side and a bullet end on the other. So it simulates two different styles of tanks. The flange prop that's the closest to the close corner here, we'll have one of those. And then we're using a barbecue prop on the other side and behind. Basically, this can take 4 small props, or if you're using a large prop, takes 2 of the burners. We can buy more props and pull props off this with the forklift and reconfigure it to do different things. It's just not something you change while you're training that day. It is something you set up the week prior if you want to make a big change depending on what you're doing. The big tank will be good for our hazmat courses because we'll be able to simulate leaks, and so it's not always about burning. And the big flame on this, our training tower that we currently have uses propane vapor. Is all it uses. You can't use liquid inside a building. This prop here uses vapor for the pilot lights, and everything else is liquid propane. So our propane consumption is going to jump exponentially when we start using these props. For 2023 year in review, we had 131 calls in 2023, so we finally slowed down a little bit from our 152 and 165 the year before. Still not down to that 96, 95 that we were kind of rolling along at for a while, but a little more realistic. Breakdown between town and rural: 54 town calls and 77 rural calls. And if you look at that over a 5-year comparison, just showing the breakdown between town versus rural. So we were down on town calls last year, but up slightly on rural calls. We'll get into why we were down later here. Incident locations, this breaks it further and takes our rural calls and breaks them into what are Alberta transportation calls and what are special areas calls. Alberta transportation is anything on a primary or secondary highway that runs between the fences. So that could be MVAs, but it's also grass fires that are along the highway that stay along the highway. Once they cross the fence, they become a special areas call. And we have to determine which way we're handling that depending on how big it is and how much it spreads. And mutual aid is anything into another municipality that we don't have a contract for services. So in special areas, even if we were to go all the way to Ontario, we would consider that a special areas call, not a mutual aid call. So most are mutual aid are Starland County, Delia, Craigmount, or Youngstown. More than often, it seems to be Village Youngstown if we go into the actual village to help them. But nothing this last year.
With that mutual aid, so that is without contract, or
Yeah, basically it's
if
somebody
you have a
that,
contract with Youngstown, do you not?
there's an old mutual aid agreement, but we can piggyback on special areas mutual aid agreement.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm asking. So yeah, sorry, I want, because I know, point do mutual aid with all of our neighbors, and then periodically we have to go. So wouldn't the Northwest Territories, would that fall under that category?
Because we went under special areas,
Okay,
special areas deployed to with their trucks, we went
okay,
under them. So
okay,
that's
no,
why
that's fine.
I classed it as special areas just because that's where the invoice was going.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah, the year to forget what year we went up to, when you went up to
High level.
high level 19, was it? On the Chuck Egg fire up there, we did classify that one mutually.
yeah. Well,
It's hard to class because it's like went to high level, right?
Yeah.
Out of the norm, although if it stays like it is up there right now, it's
Be a
gonna
lot
be
of
more
level.
norm than we want to talk about. That's your 5-year comparison. Just showing the breakdown the same way as the other slide. So everything from 2019 to 2023. So this is 5-year comparisons on just false alarms, pretty consistent. And most of these are alarms ringing, CO alarms, fire alarms. If a fire alarm's ringing and it actually turns out to be an actual fire, then it becomes a structure fire, not a false alarm. If it's a carbon monoxide alarm and it turns out to be actually a legit CO alarm and we act on it, that would come under our miscellaneous category then. So this category here is really just when, yeah, we weren't needed, probably shouldn't have been called, but it's what happens. Grass fires did 2020 or did 22 up from the previous year, but not as bad as 21, mostly because there wasn't a lot to burn, right? It was dry, but there was no fuel. Yeah, there's no grass, no fuel to burn. Medical assist, I'm happy to say for the first time in a while, it has dropped, and this is the biggest drop in the town calls. When we see how the town calls were down this year compared to the rural, this is why. We get the odd medical assist in the rural, but the majority of them are in town calls, so our AHS here with EMS has been fairly decently staffed up till recently. It's changed again. There's a high turnover happening right now. I think we're still going to be running some rough spots for probably the next 3 to 4 weeks, but touch wood, hopefully it plateaus quickly again. So, but our guys are happy that this column's come down to be a little more reasonable, but still high. It's still, and we're not the only ones. If you look at, the good friends with the fire chief in Airdrie, and if you look at some of Airdrie's stats, you know, they're up. Percentage increase, you see pricing Calgary Fire Department's report over Christmas or in the new year. Same thing, they're through the roof on their medicals, so it's not unique to just rural, it's all over the province. Miscellaneous, that catch-all category where it doesn't fit anywhere else, pretty standard. MVA is very consistent, 34. Compared to 35 the year before, so then 30, that 32, 34 is very common if you were to go back over a 10-year period, so. Structure fires, 3, so down a little bit, down quite a bit from 2021. Believe one of these must have been rural and 2 were the same house in town, as you're all aware of. Okay. If we let it burn down next time, then maybe we won't get any more calls.
That's your fault.
Yeah, it is our fault. I make no apologies. So being what we were dealing with when we pulled on scene that night, there was no choice but to fight it fiercely to make sure. So, and the guys did a great job getting it out and the building's still standing. I'm actually shocked for as much flame as was coming out of it and everything else. That she's a well-built old house, that thing. Vehicle fires up a little bit. This category catches everything from balers, combines, tractors to cars, trucks, semis. Some of our spike here was a little bit of tractors. Seemed to be guys feeding last winter, struggled a little bit with some tractor fires, so.
I'm actually surprised that's not higher with the short foliage of the crops, that they weren't. There wasn't more baler and combine fires than there was this year.
There were some field fires. Most times we got the hay bind out of the way. Mostly because there wasn't a lot of stuff to get up on it to burn. But we had guys cutting rock piles. Yeah. Like literally you look at it going, okay, this is a rock pile. Like, what did you think was gonna happen doing that? But.
They get them off spec.
Yeah, and some late cut stuff where guys going back out trying to get second cut in. And what do we have that one in August or September, just about where you're going, really? Like, so this is just all the 2023 incidents broken down in percentage. Just so you see what we're doing. Medical assist still was the thing we did the most at 28%, followed by MVAs. You know, and again, you just look at that structure fire, 2%. We're called a fire department, but it's that most dangerous fire luckily is still the least amount we do, but that's also why we have a training tower and we train to it, because we don't get a ton of practice in real world with it. So we tend to spend a lot of time practicing it to make sure we're ready for it, because it is our most high risk activity we do. This one's just like time of day. And it's pretty consistent afternoon, right? That's when most things in the heat of the day, when you got off gassing, that's when we get the majority of our grass fires. Is after lunch. After lunch till about 7 o'clock at night seems to be our window. A lot of your morning calls tend to be the MVA, especially in the inclement weather. They tend to come in the morning. And this one's by day of week. Very spread this year, pretty good. Friday seemed to be our big one. This year, there's no rhyme here. I've looked at it for many years and it's all over the place. It's the start of the year. I think we had no calls on Saturday for however many months, and then all Saturday stats started to come up, so. That's all I got. Any questions? None, Kyle?
Never.
Everything else is easy, Dave.
Must have covered it all.
Motion to accept Hanna Fire Department 2023 fourth quarter report for October to December 2023 for information. Thanks, Dave, for presenting. Motion, Councilor Bolton. All in favor? Carried. Municipal enforcement.
Fourth quarter statistics for October to December 2023, and to include the final quarter or final year updates for total stats. I don't add to my report two small adjustments. There's a typo on the unsightly snow removal total stats. It's actually 169, and that includes like snow, grass, and then increased with MGA order and bigger cleanup jobs. And a contractor's been established for the vacant properties in town, so we should see some regular maintenance with those being taken care of. All right, just updates with the same things that I've been working on from the last report, and a new schedule has been established now that I am returned and standing on my own 2 feet again. And it will be a 2-week rotation where we will see 2 days of coverage the first week and 3 days the second week. Authorized employer application has been completed. Set up and established annual meeting to be reinstated with the agriculture fieldman with the special areas number 2 to address the problematic issues between the boundary for noxious weeds. And we're going to do a weed ride along because I am not really well versed in some of the things that they are. So she's going to teach me some stuff. That's good. PWD Peace Officer Induction Program completion. I have 2 final outstanding scenarios to complete, and that will be done in February. And fitness test is scheduled for April 2024. Go over statistics in detail. Written complaints total for the year is 85. Proactive 175. One of the things that I have definitely established is, or definitely focused on, is talking to people with walk-up and phone-in complaints where they don't actually pursue a written complaint. Continuing to try and address that. I think we can improve our service delivery level with the way that we approach our complaints process, but that'll be something that we need to discuss and plan for. Total animal calls for the year, and that would include barking dog. I did not put it in the noise category to separate the two. We had 2 specific noise complaints this year. Animals was 21, garbage complaints 16. Business license, not something that I focused on. Will be transitioning over to assist in this area just to do follow-ups with the people who have not responded. It's not necessarily going to be, it'll just be a soft notice, like a letter follow-up or a phone call. MGA that would be municipal government acts, that would be your bigger cleanup projects over the years, like the heavy unsightly leaves that had a lot of removal. Or just that order that was delivered, and then compliance received after that. That total would be 37. Parking total 13 for the year. Land use bylaw, I saw 5, which I worked with the development officer on those. And then again, the unsightly and snow total is actually 169 for the entire year. Proactive work, 175 total for the year contacts, and that is with the exception of the absence for training and then when I was away for medical. So not too bad. That is all I have for you.
Questions?
I gotta check in on one project I didn't see mentioned. Is there a chance that our urban hen bylaw?
Oh, it is in here.
Was it?
Yeah, I just didn't go over it because we, that one we're still looking at, and, it is.
I know it's a priority of our development officer to have something with that too.
Well, we can make it a priority between me and our development officer, yes. I have looked at a couple other communities, with some established urban hen programs that seem to be going relatively well. The only challenge with some of these urban hen bylaws is what had been previously discussed. If somebody is not maintaining their property and there's smell issues, noise issues, et cetera, being in close proximity.
Okay.
Still talking to, Innisfil has a good one. And they're moving forward with theirs, so I'm looking at theirs and we'll see what we can present in the future. So that.
It's a coyote problem.
I think you have a coyote problem.
Yeah. So,
That's all right, that's one way to try.
And
yeah, coyotes might be able
you're gonna be keeping that.
The snowman will be safe. It's chicken,
It's cheaper to replace chickens than Christmas lights. It keeps chewing up.
I get it.
I think you might be more attached to your hens than your snowman.
I don't know.
Disagree?
maybe some public speaking training, because I seem to freeze up here all the
Glad he's
time.
moved on to you and get fun with him.
That's all I have. Thank you.
No other questions? Guys are pretty easy. Council accepts Hanna municipal enforcement, fourth quarter report for information. Thank you, Tracy. Motion, Councilor Bowden, all in favor? Carried. Operating capital budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know it's an important agenda item, but I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it. Basically, following the second meeting we had with council on December 14th, we implemented the changes that are identified in the report, which brought us down to a balanced budget for 2024. So I don't know if there's any questions or clarifications. It's as simple as that. We basically, the motions that were passed and the changes that were made at the December 14th budget meeting, we've implemented into this one and bringing it forward for approval.
Any questions? Say it now. Hearing none, council adopt the 2024 operating and capital budget dated January 9th, 2024 as presented and accepts the 2025-2026 operating budgets and 2025-2028 capital budgets for information. Motion, Councilor Farrell. All in favor? Carried. 9.06. Good country housing.
So, Mr. Mayor, as you may or may not be aware, Angela McGillian was, a town of Hanna appointed individual to the, Big Country Housing Authority. She has recently taken the job of Mr. Holman, the Chief Administrative Officer there, so no longer able to sit as a board member on Housing Authority. They have, the board, the authority has met and has recommended Mr. Fred Kroll to be appointed as a citizen at large member for the Big Country Housing Authority. Normally, as I said in my report, I would have that individual just fill the term of the individual leaving, but Angela's would have been up this October. So I have extended it to October of 2025. We try to keep a balance, and of course, we only appoint 3 members, so as long as we have 2 one year, 1 the other year, so that's why I recommended that it be appointed to October 31st, 2025. Just keep the stagger and some continuity there.
Okay, questions? The motion that council accepts.
Councilor Kroll should probably
You'd like to see?
recuse himself from the
Yeah,
vote,
yeah.
so abstain from voting.
Abstain. You can't abstain.
Can I have a recording phone? I'm just kidding, I'm sorry. I'm just
You can't abstain. What's it called?
Yeah,
It's not,
You can't abstain. I know that because I got. in
but
trouble for that.
he's got a pecuniary interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just,
Okay, we got you, Fred.
Yeah,
Council approves the appointment of Fred Kroll to the Big Country Housing Authority Board as citizen at large for the term ending October 31st, 2025. Motion? I'll make that motion. All in favor? Carried. I've already backed up for it. Congratulations, Mr. Kroll. Looking forward to it.
Or you can just find me a new.
9.07. Indoor Pro Rodeo Queen sponsorship request.
so, Mr. Mayor, I know that, in, last year, council made a motion to provide $1,000 to Miss Rodeo Hanna. The 2024 Queen, recently made a request and submitted a formal request. Council, administration basically, if council approves this recommendation, we would just ask that it come out of the 2023 budget. There is still room in the public relations promotions budget of council. And again, the amount was what we did last year. If that's not an amount council's comfortable with, that certainly can be amended higher or lower. I just used the amount that council provided last year.
She's been doing quite a bit so far. So. Motion? Councilor Carroll? All in favor? Carried. Council reports. Fred, anything to add to yours?
No, just I got a text from Sean Homestead today. Tetra Tech gave the go ahead today to start filling cell D, that's one that had the fire. And with frost layer waste, next step is submitting paperwork to Alberta Environment for full approval.
So that's good news.
Yes, very good.
Councilor Bowden,
I have nothing to add.
Councilor Olson,
Aside from the exciting budget meetings, the Heartland Annual Environmental Meeting, where they invite Westmoreland for their or Westmet for their presentation, was surprising. I didn't realize the operation that Westmet was, and they're actively hiring and needing another 20 mechanics and logistics staff. I didn't realize the operation that the Humolite was initiating out there and the potential of it for
It's would need to be,
very long-term viability of that
Yeah.
place out there. So
it
that
was
was cool.
super neat to be involved from kind of the walking part to where they're at now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite the scene out there some days, so.
Yeah, when he talked about kind of where they started, it seems like a whirlwind, it just keeps growing and growing and, yeah. And I do recommend if you do get a chance to go, it's very informative meeting, in regards to, how they're trying to meet their environmental standards and any contraventions and, just some improvements they're making to reduce their emissions, as it moves along and it's well worth, I know it's part of their requirement to hold this meeting, but I think if you do get an opportunity, it's very informative meeting to attend.
Council Warwick, anything to add?
No, Mr. Mayor, I have no more to add to my report. Thank you.
No. It was quiet Christmas. And same for me, it's been relatively quiet, few public appearances, just welcoming and so on and so forth, so. Motion to accept council round table. Counselor Olson, all in favor? Carried. Correspondence.
Mr. Mayor, there's a couple there. I should have pointed it out, in my budget, discussion, the one letter from, Minister McIver about local government fiscal framework. So they did, on December 15th, after our budget meeting, announce the allocations. So, we certainly, saw more than we anticipated we would see. I can't remember on the budget document in front of me. And again, based on the cost sharing program with the revenue going up, they've already committed to the 2025 amount. So again, both numbers higher than we anticipated. Still in context, probably lower than what we were receiving 10 years ago. And like I said, had this discussion with someone. Yes, it's gone up. It's still lower than 10 years ago and costs have probably doubled. So, it certainly, will help as we move forward and I just wanted to make sure the council is aware that I think there's still going to be some ongoing discussions. I know, AM has got their position. Basically AM and RMA did not agree on the funding formula, how it should be allocated. So I think they probably tried to satisfy both of them as much as they could, but I know RMA has concerns about the population that was used as a determining allocation because the rurals generally don't have as much population. But AM had some concerns with some stuff too. So I know that it will be a consistent theme. You will hear that maybe they've got the allocation relatively satisfactory, but the pot is still not big enough will be the theme that you'll continue to hear at AM, and I'm sure RMA will be the same bandwagon. So as we know, at AM, the resolution was approved to increase LGFF by $1 billion. Well, we didn't get $1 billion, but our amount is certainly higher than we anticipated. So I guess that's a good news. So I just wanted to let you aware of that. And the other one, just the letter from Minister Schultz in just regards to water. It's going to be an interesting spring as we move forward. Certainly the government, province is putting it on, everyone's radar that we need to be looking at water conservation measures, as we move forward, because it looks like through all their modeling and everything that, we're going to continue to be in a drought, and there may not be as much allocation available in the river tributaries. I think they're all each a little bit different. But again, I shared this letter with Mr. Carl at the water treatment plant, and he was surprised. He hadn't seen it or heard anything about it. But the true tell will be for us will be in the spring, when Garth starts to draw water from the river after, kind of after spring, drawn will fill up his reservoir, whether he's going to be restricted or not. I know that'll be a real key turning point for us. And if they are restricted, I would expect all of the municipalities in Henry Kruger that will have to look at implementing some water conservation measures, whether that's, primarily that will be on residential lawns, residential gardens, even town use of water for irrigation purposes, maybe have to be restricted. So they just want to, I think, make sure it's on everybody's radar that things aren't looking positive for that. And unfortunately, for us, not even potable water, but even non-potable water, we know the reservoirs around the town are extremely low and valuable. But with them being low, it's gonna might have some implications even on the golf course. Kyle, I know last year you guys looked at drawing some raw water through Henry Kruger's system to help keep the greens and tee boxes irrigated, but that might even be in question next year too. So let's pray for rain and heavy wet snow in the spring. So lots of it. So I just wanted to bring those two points to your attention out of the correspondence items.
Any questions, concerns? Motion to accept correspondence for information. Also, Bolton, thank you. All in favor? Carries. We move into a closed session at 7:31.
Three different documents here.